Um,
Mm.
but I guess we should move on to our last. This is a
Yeah,
very
let's move
interesting
on.
topic, by the way, that Adnan himself cooked up.
Well, this is one like you wanted to talk about as well. So
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. No, I'm totally down
with,
for it.
with the SNES Mini coming out as well, we kind of like I was just like wanting to talk to Chris about because I'm based in the UK, Chris is based in the US,
Yeah.
and we've experienced different kind of like cultures and
I
like
know
different kind
with
of
our
like
accents, it's probably so hard to figure that out, but that is the.
exactly
I'm actually not from the UK. I know. It's my R's are so long. I'm like a damn pirate.
exactly.
You told me that once, by the
So
way. You're like, your R's, they go on for so long, and I'm like, I don't know. That's just how we talk.
oh god. So yeah, basically we were like just talking about the differences between like US and European video game differences. Like there's
Yeah.
like it's been long documented how different it is. And like with the SNES Mini, I was posting a picture first in our group chat that we have, and then I deleted it and re-added the European one because I was like console is ugly. Because I was like the Super Famicom, I was like that does not look nice in the North American one. I was like it looks like as Chris said to me off podcast, a prototype for like a game developer to
Yeah, it
test
looks
their
like a
games
dev.
on.
It looks like a dev kit, like in comparison.
Yeah,
Totally.
I just find it really interesting how different like the games are, like how you see things. Like me and Chris I've always had this discussion with like I've looked at like Chris has shown me something. I'm like, this is strange. Like the SNES Mini was completely different.
Yeah.
European one looks like 50 times better. It's colorful. It's nice. It just looks quite nice. And then just like generally like me and Chris have owned Metal Gear games. We're big Metal Gear fans, and like
Yeah.
um and we got the MGS1 box art, which was released in Japan, which has the Shinkawa art, and
We
you
got a
guys had
white
the one with
background with red. Hey, but you know what, man? That red ink looked really cool. Like if you see it in person, it's like shiny and kind of metallic. So it looks kind of cool. But yeah, ours is just a white background with with
yeah,
the
but like then
logo.
you have the MGS one, which has like Snake and the Shinkawa art. It's weird though, because
Yeah.
like when we talk about it, like I've always had this conversation with Chris. I'm like, oh yeah, like look at my cover for MGS4. And he's like, dude, you have Shinkawa art, and yours. We're like, yeah. He's like, we have
Yeah.
this North American one. He shows me it's like Snake just like in a proper like typical Watch Dogs kind of style like pose of a
Yeah.
Ubisoft game. I'm like, what? It's just strange though, because like you look at it, it's just a bit weird. Because I mean, MGS5 Ground Zeroes. Did you guys get the one with cars on the front?
No, MG Ground
Or was
Zeroes.
that just Japan?
I think that was just Japan because apparently Kaz was very popular in Japan, but I don't think
Yeah.
in Europe or the US he was popular.
Um,
So we just have Snake and yeah, no Kaz.
yeah, because I have the poster in my room of the MGS5 Ground Zero. It has cars on it.
Yeah.
Um, well, obviously in the game, but like obviously recently that was a big change. Where I was like, right, that's completely different. But I've always found it really um interesting to see the different kind of culture things of just like the NES Mini, the Mega Drive, the Genesis. I told Chris off podcast, I was like, I
Yeah,
always
that
thought
was
there were different consoles as a kid. I was like, it was just such a strange one. And then when the internet came out, I read about it. It's like, oh yeah, they're the same consoles, just named differently. Um,
yeah, we
it's just one of those you never really notice until you look at it, don't you?
yeah, no, I didn't I was not aware of it when I was a kid growing up. I had a Sega Genesis was the second console I ever owned. Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm like, yeah, like it was such a cool console. And then as I got older, I don't know what it was. It was probably like a gaming magazine or like it was probably Game Pro or like one of those magazines that came out when I was a kid. This is before gaming journalism was huge on the internet. And yeah, they I think that's where I found out. Wow, apparently the United States is the only. I think North. It might be Canada also. It might be North America in general. But apparently Genesis is only called Genesis here, and everywhere else around the world it was called Mega Drive. And apparently it was because of a copyright issue in America. They couldn't call it Sega Mega Drive because Mega Drive was copywritten for something else. Kind of like how Resident Evil was called Biohazard in Japan, but here in America, and I think in Europe as well, it's called Resident Evil, and that was a
It
copyright thing.
it was just like, yeah. I remember you telling me this, and I was like, I remember when RE7 was released, RE7 Biohazard, and I really like the name, and people were like, why'd you like it? It was done by, I'm like, Biohazard's what it's called in Japan, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh. I was like, it's kind of a good way to kind of like soft reboot the entire thing.
Oh, totally.
And
Yeah.
I've always talked about it as well with the Evil Within. Evil Within Japan's called Psycho Break, and I'm like, that game sounds
That's such a
cool
cool
as
title.
fuck.
Yeah, you did mention that. That's
That's what I mean. So because I'm like, that sounds so much cooler, like the Evil Within. I'm like, you can obviously tell like they had like a Western marketer come in and be like, I think that sounds a little bit better. Because I'd be like, if I saw Psycho Break on the shelf, I'd be going grabbing it straight away. Because I'm like, this sounds like crazy. um,
Dude,
but it's one of
actually,
those where you realize the difference. Go on.
oh, sorry, no, I was gonna say actually, I
No,
have
no, go
here.
on.
What?
No, no, go on, go on. I just like stopped and I was like, ooh, like, waiting for you to say something. But go on.
No, I have a list here from Wikipedia. I'm not going to say the whole list because some of these are kind of not interesting, but I want to bring. There's some changes apparently in video games that were different in Europe than they were in America. Like this one is so crazy, dude. So Contra in Europe is actually called Probotector. Probotector. And instead of fighting human combatants, it's robots. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Contra, you guys don't when if Adnan if you were to go to the store and be like, "Oh, I'd like to buy Probotector." They'd be like, "Oh yeah, Probotector. It's a great Konami game." In America, they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And you're like, and they're
Well,
like, "Are you talking about Contra?" Like that it's called Contra
this
in America.
is that's the thing though with America, but this is Konami as well. I remember posting the chat with how Metal Gear One is different as well in the NES port. But you
Yeah.
don't fight Metal Gear and you fight a supercomputer.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
that in
you're like,
yeah, that's another regional thing when they well, that was a totally different game when they ported
oh yeah,
Metal Gear without Kojima. Like brilliant, right? Let's get the director and not use him. When they ported it to America, Metal Gear's not the title character is not in the movie. The only, in the game. I think the only other time I've ever seen that was when they made a sequel to Van Wilder. Do you remember when they made a sequel to Van Wilder, the Ryan Reynolds movie,
yeah, I
and Ryan
remember that.
Reynolds wasn't in it, and it was literally called Van Wilder 2, and I'm like, but he's not in it,
Well, it's like
you know?
Halloween 3. Michael
Oh
Myers is
yeah,
not in it.
he's not.
They have the imposter. They have like it briefly appear like a strange camera. It's like having a Friday the 13th without Jason Voorhees. Well, obviously you can in the first. Actually, I'm a bit wrong with that one. More like Nightmare on Elm Street without Freddy Krueger. You're a little bit like um, where's this nightmare in Elm Street? Like I
Oh,
don't get it. You probably just see Donald Trump walking down the street. And it's like right. It's
he
like now I understand.
here's actually two other ones here that I think this is from the Super Nintendo era. I think you'd find this interesting. So in Super Mario RPG, apparently, in the PAL version, the word bugger said by Croc has been replaced with pest. So there's a character called Croco that says bugger, and instead in the European version he says pest.
Hmm.
So that's kind of weird.
That's
Wouldn't he? I guess he'd say bugger off, but why would he say pest off? That doesn't make sense. That sounds like pissed off. That sounds worst. Whatever.
Sounds like English a little bit.
Yeah,
Just put
English.
that in. It's like
Oh, and also this is the second one in North America. There's a video game called Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Very popular top-down shooter kind of games. Um, the censorship committees in several European nations censored more of the game and renamed it to just Zombies. So isn't that
hmm,
weird? Like it's called Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but in Europe it's just called Zombies.
because
So that's
yeah, it's
another.
this is the thing though. 'Cause it's always like made me feel like bizarre seeing stuff like that. I think another one
Yeah.
as well, and I just remember this as well as Indigo Prophecy.
Oh yeah, that's another. Yeah, what is it called here? It's called Fahrenheit. It's called Fahrenheit, right? Everywhere else, and then it's called
Yeah,
Indigo Prophecy in the U.S. Is that it?
it is. So it's
Oh,
called Fahrenheit in Europe, and it's called Indigo Prophecy in North America. And then
that's so
the
weird.
remaster they did was called Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Remastered.
Oh, so they coloned it. They're like Fahrenheit, Indigo Prophecy.
Yeah,
That's kind of like The
yeah.
Professional, that movie with remember Natalie Portman was in it? She was a little girl. That in France it was called Leon, but then in America they called it The Professional because they thought that was a stronger name.
Oh
So
yeah,
when they released it on DVD, they're like, well, we don't want to confuse people, so they called it Leon
Leon.
The Professional, which is kind of a
And
cool name.
that's
I think that's actually if you combine them, it's cooler.
yeah, it works when you combine them, but it's very strange when you like notice them like little bits. Because obviously when I was in the industry covering some of the stuff as well, I remember the Indigo Prophecy um, stuff popping up. I'm like, did David Cage make another game? And I was like, research. I was like, oh wait, Indigo Prophecy is different from Fahrenheit. Oh, I was like, they're not different. I'm like, Fahrenheit and Indigo Prophecy are the same game. And I was like, there's uh, different name changes. So I was like, oh, it's just strange when you sit back and like really think about the culture differences.
Yeah.
Even like not even like just Western and East, even like within the Western spirit, it's different as well.
Oh
So I was
yeah.
talking to Chris last year, and I played South Park: The Stick of Truth, and Chris played it after me. And I kind of joked about the fact that I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they have this like little quippy thing in the alien probe section, Randy, where they pull up this message saying that the EU have censored them from playing. I was like, I thought it was jokes, and then Chris was like, what do you mean? And like it was really like a confusing discussion for like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, cuz
And then I went, and then I, go on, I went on like YouTube afterwards and watched it. And I was like, you can actually play the mini game in the US version, but they've obviously banned it in the European one. But because of like South
yeah.
Park's humor, I thought it was actually part of the game that they put that message there just for a joke. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
then
I
I was, oh,
didn't
Chris,
I actually think yours is better, believe it or not, because the anal probe scene, dude, and the I think also they censored the abortion scene. I think also,
yeah,
yeah, dude.
yeah,
Honestly, I found those gross. Like it was like the sound effects they use were like just like ugh. It kind of made me like ugh. I
yeah.
don't like stuff like that. And then I think I YouTubed it when you mentioned that to me, and I looked up what they did in Europe, and honestly, I find it funnier. Like I
It's
feel
good, isn't
like
it?
you know what it kind of reminded me of in Grindhouse, how like the girl's about to give a lap dance to that guy, and then they cut to like a censor like missing reel, and then they cut back and it's after the lap dance. I think that's more clever, to be honest, than showing the actual thing. And I think in South Park, um, yeah, like it was the same thing for me.
Yeah,
I think though that
yeah.
does suck though. I wish you guys got both versions. I wish they would somehow, I mean, I guess you could import it. I think PS3 is region free as far as I know, but like it's not really worth it, to be honest. It's just like two or three parts that you could just YouTube
Hmm.
it and it's like the same thing.
That's what I mean though, because with the internet now it's different. But like obviously in the like if we were back in the '80s playing some of these games, you just wouldn't know about it unless you talk to someone.
Oh, yeah, like if
Um,
you happen to know someone in a different country and you were like, "Hey man,
because
have you
people used to
played
make up all kinds of jokes.
Protector?" And they're like, "What?" Yeah,
Because
Protector.
because like obviously like we've been through different decades of gaming and stuff like that, and so when you like
Yeah.
grew up, it's like someone make a joke up on the school playground where you could play as Snake. If you like defeat the game 500 times, you play as Liquid Snake, and then someone would go home and try and beat the game 500 times, thinking that was true. Because like you couldn't like really say it was wrong or right because it wasn't like the internet wasn't there. But now obviously you data mine stuff through coding
Yeah.
and everything else. You can find out little specifics and little like secrets. But I always find it quite strange how the difference of like cultures are. Like even when I was talking to Chris, I was buying my Mac a couple of years ago. I looked at the keyboards, and the US keyboard is different from the UK one. I was like, what? I'm like, why is your enter button so small? I'm like, I was like, and like just like the little things. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um,
It's weird, man. I mean, that's why I think it'd be very like I think you once told me, man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you once told me that if you ever came to America and you stayed with me at my house, that you would just like I think I was like, "Oh, dude, would you want me to show you to like like take you to Disney, or would you want me to do?" And I think you told me, correct me if I'm wrong, like you're like, "No, man, I just want to see what you guys do. Like what's different?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Really?"
it's just yeah.
And I could understand that. That would be like to me that's fascinating to see like dude, I don't know what a fucking quid is. Like I don't know what that is, but I'd be so fascinated to see how that's used. I don't, and I probably sound like a child right now to you because you're like, he doesn't know what a fucking quid is. But if I was like, hey Adnan, what's a nickel? You're like, I don't fucking know. So it's like one of those things. It's so weird that there's like these, we speak the same language, but like even sometimes there's like slangs that don't make sense. It's bizarre, man, how it is. But I think it's fucking fascinating. I've always been interested in like
Yeah,
other cultures and how things change.
see, that's the thing though, as well. Like what you just said, like I wouldn't really necessarily like want to go to the US and be like go to Disneyland and like little things. I'm more immersed in the culture of like how different it is because obviously like legal drinking ages are different in the US,
Oh yeah.
and like obviously the culture is different. Like like in terms of tipping, like it's twenty
They would,
percent.
dude. They would
And like
easily,
that's
even with your beard, they'd card you.
yeah,
They
probably.
would,
I'm
because
like yeah,
they card me even when I'm not with Rebecca. Because Rebecca looks very young, so if I'm with her, they're like, "Fucking show me your IDs," and I'm like, "All right," and they're like, "Oh my God, you're 30." But like,
well,
uh,
that's the difference though because like obviously 21 is the legal drinking age. Here it's
yeah,
18, so it's like you even though that 3 years does make a difference because people like even if you're like 26, you still have to be a bit more vigilant about because someone could be
Yeah.
someone could be 20 and they could look like they're 25.
Yeah, yeah.
So it does make perfect sense in that sense, what you're
Yeah.
saying. But it is one of those where I always find the culture different. Like if you walked into like stores, like same if you went like Japan, you see Pokemon Green and Red version instead of Pokemon Blue and Red. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm like, just, what you're just taken aback a little bit because obviously you know about it, but it's such a little difference as well, especially in gaming as well. Like obviously it goes across movies and music and like like little things, but with gaming it's so relevant as well. And over time, it's been difference between North America and Europe, or it's been differences between the West and the East. And there's always just
Yeah.
those like little things where I'm always like a little bit like fascinated with it. And you do speak like on different languages a little bit, even as you said, we speak the same language. It just
Yeah.
feels like when I'm like, hey, have you played that Mega Drive game? You're like, wait, what's a Mega Drive? It's like, all right, right. I know you mean. You're the Genesis. It's like, it's one of those. I always find it fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating how gaming has like changed and how like we see the little
Yeah.
things. I still do think Europe has got the better end of the stick with
Going
most
back to
stuff.
the
It's like,
SNES.
yeah, well, the SNES and with some of the MGS box arts and like, I think like,
Oh,
Indigo
um,
Prophecy is a better name than Fahrenheit.
also like not to like switch subjects, but I have a couple of interesting things from this list. I have a couple of more if you want me to say them. I think this is really
Oh,
interesting. Okay, so in World of Warcraft, in the European version, players are unable to acquire. I'm gonna butcher this. A Wolpertiger pet because it requires the player to complete a quest that requires getting their character drunk. So that was banned in Europe because I guess you had to get drunk. And then, dude, this one, maybe you could explain this to me because I think this is a cultural thing. I don't understand this. So in Mario Party 8, in the US version of Mario Party 8, the word spastic has been changed to erratic in later PAL
oh.
copies due to the controversy surrounding the word spastic. What the fuck is spastic?
Spastic's like a very like derogatory kind of like term for someone who's like in the equivalence of like has a mentally is has like a
Like a
mental
mental
disability.
Really? Holy
Yeah, so
shit.
it's a very
Dude,
it,
that's so
it
not what it is in the US.
yeah, it's a very like mental like someone who's maybe like mentally challenged or someone who has like mental health issues, something along those lines like maybe has like Asperger's or dyslexia something
Oh
like that,
my
and
god.
you refer to them as quote unquote a spastic.
That's
It's like
so
almost as bad as
wow.
it's almost as bad as saying someone is like a like saying implicitly saying someone's homosexual like as an
Right.
insult kind of
Right. Dude, no, here in America, spastic is like, oh man, he went spastic today. Like it's like the equivalent of saying, oh, he went crazy, he went nuts. Like like that guy was going spastic all over his like paper. He was just like it's basically saying like you really kind of lost your mind for a moment because you were just not literally, but just like when you're stressed out and you're like, oh my god, I'm ripping my hair out. It's that equivalent in the U.S. That is so crazy. Wow. Okay, so Mario Party 8, they're like,
yeah just
no, let's not do that. We not
I
change
just
that,
I just
Mario. We will not say a spastic. That's racial. That's
I just
insensitive.
I just
That's
I just saw it over. I've just seen it on
wow.
Google, like the differences of like where it is. It wasn't because what it says here is it was additionally firstly used as a medical term,
Right.
but it says which found that spastic was the second most offensive term in the UK.
Wow. Holy crap. No wonder.
So it's
Yeah, here they say controversy surrounding the word. So, wow, that is yeah, man, that's like a cultural. That could be like you would severely offend someone if you were like if I were to
yeah. So
go like if I were to go
what?
like to one of your friends and I'm like, "Oh man, I was going spastic over this trip because of the time change." They'd be like, "What the fuck do you mean by that?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Like,
That's what I mean because like it is one of those where you just don't realize it as well. It's the same with like World War II, Call of
Yeah.
Duty. Like they've removed the swastikas now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
obviously I think they've just done it generally. It's one of those where they don't want to do it. But in Germany, they have like harsh laws against anything depicting the swastika is shown.
Wow.
So it's like they probably won't be able to get the game through the country, and obviously you don't want to be like hindered by little things like that. But it's always one of those where you don't
Yeah.
realize little things like that. You're like, ooh, it's like right difference of meanings and difference of phrasings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that yeah, that's I mean, there's others on this list. If you guys are interested, it's on Wikipedia. It's called List of Regionally Censored Video Games. If you go there, you could see it. But it's really interesting. There's other ones too. I just tried to focus on European and American stuff, because obviously that's what this topic was. But yeah, dude, that is so crazy. How different things are. Between cultures. But I think is beautiful, man. Some things just stay the same. There's certain things that just are the same. Like I'm so happy, man, that PSN is worldwide. I love that. I love that
Yeah,
PlayStation Network. Like I don't have to just play with people in America. I can play with people all over the world. Same thing. I think all of them. I think Xbox Live is like that. Even Nintendo is like that. Their new what is it? Nintendo Network? Is that what it's called? Even
yeah, I think
that's
so.
yeah, even that's like, I play with. I was doing Mario Kart a couple of weeks ago, and I raced some guy in Japan, or some woman in Europe or whatever. I like that. I like how there's, even though video games have had censorships and stuff like that. At the end of the day, there's you could still connect with people online. You could still do co-op with people and stuff like that. That's so cool, man. I'm glad that that's something that sticks all the way. What I would love to see is one day like a co-op game where it's really heavily censored in America, but we could still play together, you and I co-op. And then like I'm watching something and you're like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? He's just walking." And you're like, "No, no, he just lost his arm." And I'm like, What? He lost his arm?" And like I don't know if that would ever happen. I don't think they could do that because it wouldn't make
No,
sense,
I don't
but
think it.
that would be
Yeah,
hilarious to do a let's play like that of you and I
yeah,
playing side by side the same game, but it's just one is really censored and the other is.
yeah,
Um,
it would be pretty fun.
but yeah, I think that's I
But
think
yeah,
that's about it.
that's it. So that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for joining us. You can find this episode on YouTube at Podcast Go's YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Podcast Go. Thank you, Chris, for joining me
Dude, of
on this
course.
podcast.
I love this show.
Always.
And I don't love it because I co-host it. I love it. I think this is such a fun show, and it's like straight and to the point, but we get in depth, man. It has heart.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this episode. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.